The Auburn Tigers take on Ball State game 2 of the college football season. How important is this matchup? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for turning us up and turning us on. We'll turn it out here on a Thursday morning. I'm solo again, and we're talking Auburn football. More specifically, we're talking Auburn versus Ball State, game 2 of the college football season for Auburn. Look, on its face, this may look like just any other matchup. Auburn opens their season against Baylor August 29th in Waco. It's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. But this game versus Ball State is important in a lot of ways because Auburn will either be fine-tuning or they might be regrouping after a loss to Baylor. I predicted a win, but if they lose this one, this game takes on a certain significance that I want to talk about today on today's show. As I mentioned, this game will be played at 6:30. It is Auburn's home opener to the college football season in week 2. So they'll be on the road home against Ball State for week 2. A little bit of history here. These teams have met 3 times. Auburn has won all 3 of those games by an average score of 49-11. The Tigers beat Ball State in 2001, 30-0, 63-3 in 2005, and they won 54-30 in 09. So, you know, why Auburn's going to win this game? Well, we know the talent gap is massive in this one. This is one Auburn could win with their eyes closed. Hell, Auburn could win this game with their third-string quarterback. But why I think this game is important is Hugh Freeze is trying to find his footing offensively. They've been unable to find it as far as scoring in the red zone and finishing off drives these first 2 years on the Plains. So you're going to go out to Baylor, and it's going to look really great, or it's going to be a hot mess, or it's going to look lackluster. Either way, game 2, you're coming home to fine-tune the work you started in game 1 versus Baylor. Now, starting with a P4 non-conference is obviously a tough task, especially a team like Baylor, who is going to contend for the Big 12 championship. But once you get home versus Ball State, you got to start figuring some things out if it doesn't look great week 1 offensively. Now, Hugh Freeze received a lot of criticism last year for not giving the ball to Jarquez Hunter. Damari Alston is going to tote the rock, man. Damari is going to be a power player for Auburn, as will Jeremiah Cobb. And I think a game 2 is going to be an opportunity for Hugh Freeze to balance out the run and get these guys some carries, let them get a feel for the game. I have a feeling that they may be trading passing blows a lot week 1 versus Baylor, which may leave the running game lacking some opportunities to carry the rock. Either way, you've got to get Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb in a rhythm to start the season. Now, Jeremiah Cobb is actually a very underrated pass catcher in my book. Getting him going on wheel routes and getting him out of the backfield, making plays with the ball in his hand is going to be super important. But also, running the ball between the tackles with Damari Alston is going to be super important as well, too. Auburn has to do both. And Ball State represents a significant opportunity to fine-tune those parts of the game. Now, Auburn's not going to be short of playmakers in this one. Obviously, Jackson Arnold, all eyes are going to be on him. Not just game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, all the way through game 12. All eyes are going to be on Jackson Arnold. The Oklahoma transfer threw for 1,400 yards last year, 12 TDs, not a ton of interceptions, and he rushed for 444 yards. Look, man, he can move with his feet. In this one, though, you want to save his arm. And as much as I want to see Jackson Arnold, game 2, I think we see Deuce Knight. I think Hugh Freeze rolls Deuce Knight out as early as he can in this one. Look for Auburn to go up big and look for him to put his freshman quarterback on display for the world to see. Because here's what's going to happen. Auburn is either going to exceed expectations in year 3 or they're going to fall short. And if you're Hugh Freeze, you want to show off what the future is. You want people to see, hey, look at this guy that I brought to the Plains, this Deuce Knight guy who probably won't stay if I'm not the coach. Let me show you what he can do. And if Deuce Knight snaps in this game, it's going to create that feeling that Auburn fans had when we saw Jeremy Johnson step in for Nick Marshall. And it seemed like the heir apparent to the program was clear. Now, Jeremy Johnson got his shot. So, I mean, it played out that way. He ended up not being that guy. But Deuce Knight is a very, very different kind of player. Top 50 overall player, Deuce Knight, one of the highest quarterback commits to ever commit to Auburn, getting a shot to take the field and show off his extremely incredible arm. Now, during A-Day, we saw him make veteran-type throws. He can make every kind of throw you would want from a quarterback at this level. Him and Perry Thompson seem to have a little bit of a special connection even, I would say. Perry was all over the place making catches from Deuce. But we also saw him make freshman mistakes. And this is a good chance to see how far along he's come in his process of seeing the field. Because you could need him this year. I stress, you could need him this year. And if you're Hugh Freeze, if you end up needing him, getting this time in versus Ball State could be extremely valuable. So watch out for Deuce Knight taking the field and making things happen. It's gonna be a fun watch, guys. It's gonna be a really fun watch to see Deuce Knight just doing what Deuce Knight does. He's got to get time. He's got to get time early. Now, you brought in Ashton Daniels, and Ashton puts you in a little bit of a precarious situation because, quite honestly, he's only got 1 year left. He's kind of maybe an emergency type quarterback. He's clearly not the future of your program. Does it make sense to roll Ashton Daniels out there over Deuce Knight? I don't think it makes a lot of sense in terms of the future of your football team if you're Hugh Freeze. I'll go as far as to say I don't think it makes any sense. Roll with Deuce Knight. That's the future of your program. Deuce has got to be the next to step in. I went back and forth over this a lot because Ashton seems like a good kid. It seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. Seems like he's doing all the things that you could want a quarterback to do. But the reality is what? The reality is he's not the future of your program. Deuce is. So you got to figure out a way to make that happen. You've got to get Deuce Knight in the game, and you got to get him rolling. Look what happened at Florida with DJ Lagway. We talk about this a lot on the show. Lagway stepped in for Graham Mertz after Graham got hurt, and he ended up not giving the job back. Now, it's a little bit of a different scenario with Jackson Arnold. I expect Jackson to play well. I just think, if he stays healthy, not only does he finish the season as Auburn's QB1, I think he has a chance to break all kind of records with this receiver room. That's right. I said it. I think he has a chance to break every record ever set passing by an Auburn quarterback with this receiver room. And if you think that's, bug, if you think that's homerism, I got news for you. These receivers are good. This receiver room is what QBs dream about. And if they get going for Jackson Arnold, Auburn's going to be really scary passing the ball through the air here in Hugh Freeze's third season on the Plains. So this Ball State game, it gives you some stuff, man. It gives you some things that why it might look like just a blowout game. These are meaningful games for an offense that's been struggling to find its footing since Hugh Freeze got here. Who's calling plays? Is it Hugh Freeze? Is it Derek Nix? Is it Ken Austin? Hugh Freeze has told us at times it's some combination of all three of those guys. And all I can think is, I don't care who's calling the plays. It's just got to look better than what we've seen so far. Ball State should put up no resistance versus the 4- and 5-star talent that Auburn has. In 2024, the Ball State Cardinals went 3-9, 2-6 in the MAC. They scored just 25 points per game. That's 88 out of 134 FBS teams. And on the flip side, they conceded a brutal 40 points per game. They gave up 40 points per game. If you're Auburn, you're going to score a cajillion points in this one. So, yeah, I'm looking back at this, and I just think, Auburn's got home field advantage. They've got a championship pedigree with championship-type players. And they should blow Ball State out. But it's not about the blowout. It's about who gets meaningful time for Auburn in a game where, quite frankly, they need to be using to tune up for SEC play, because that start to SEC play is going to be absolutely brutal. On the road at Oklahoma, on the road at Texas A&M, home versus Georgia. If you're Auburn, you got to get your shit together before Norman because you got to win at least one out of those first 3 SEC games. You win 2, Auburn might be looking at a legendary season. You win all 3, Auburn's making the playoff. Because I'm telling you, after Georgia, I wouldn't call it exactly a cakewalk, but it is certainly the most winnable stretch of football games I've ever seen on an Auburn schedule. Look, what are the implications of Auburn potentially struggling versus a Ball State, or it maybe not looking clean, or maybe it looking sloppy? We'll talk about that next, right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across the street from the Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to Renfro's Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. This episode of The War Report is brought to you by our friends at The Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, The Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. I Got Richard is a longtime sponsor of the show. Please visit The Rogue Shop for all your herbal medicinal needs. Also want to thank our friends at setsforsociety.ai. Do you want to get to know yourself better, maybe learn how you work better with a team, be a better teammate, a better coworker, a better partner? Setsforsociety.ai has custom personality assessments that let you know a little bit more about how you think and how you can relate to a team better. Visit setsforsociety.ai to get your custom personality assessment started today. Get to know yourself with Sets for Society. What are the implications of this week 2 matchup? As I mentioned, if it looks sloppy, if it doesn't look fine-tuned, the questions will continue to grow about this coaching staff and what they are doing with the talent that they have. Make no mistake, Hugh Freeze set out to do one thing primarily, and that was to raise the talent level, to close the talent gap between Auburn and the rest of the league. And for all intents and purposes, he's done that. He's done that extremely well. Now that that gap is closed, you got to move on to phase 2. Phase 2 is proving that you know what to do with the talent that you brought in. Hugh Freeze he's got to show us something, man. He's got to show us a development plan. He's got to be the QB guy that Auburn hasn't had until now. Guys, I keep saying this. When Auburn has been able to find a championship-level QB or just competent QB play, I don't even have to go championship level, competent QB play, they've been in the conversation for championships. When Jason Campbell came into his own in 2004, undefeated, that Auburn team changed the landscape of college football. Now, a lot of people want me to skip over the next 2, but you can't. Brandon Cox, one of the better pure passers we've had in Auburn history, he turned in an 11-win season. taking over for Jason Campbell. Chris Todd came in under Gus Malzahn and set a record for touchdown passes in his season as the starter at Auburn. Now, we all know what happened after that. Cam Newton turned in an undefeated Heisman campaign. He won every single award you can win in college football that year, and it wasn't even close. He absolutely carried a team to an undefeated national championship that would have been a 7-win team without him. No offensive draft picks on that squad for Auburn. Now, 2013, magical moments. Nick Marshall gave us the prayer, and Jordan-Hare took us all the way to a national championship where they came up just 3 points short of beating Florida State for a national title. Jarrett Stidham came in. I said, I call Brandon Cox one of the better pure passers. I think Jarrett Stidham was the best pure passer that we've seen in an Auburn uniform, especially in the last 25 years. They came up just short of the college football playoff, beat Georgia and Alabama in succession, only to lose to Georgia in the SEC championship in the rematch. But that team was so close to something special. Bo Nix had the talent. Unfortunately, he had Gus as a coach. So the result ended up being a lot of, what we saw under Gus. He needed a really specific type of quarterback. I think they put a lot on him as a freshman. If you're Auburn, you've got to see Hugh Freeze handle QBs in a meaningful way. Now, what do I mean by a meaningful way? Jackson Arnold has to look confident. He has to look competent. He has to look like the 5-star QB he was coming out of high school. And if you're Hugh Freeze, you guys pull your magic, man. You've got to get that out of him. Jay Crane said, look, you can be bad at the things you're bad at, but you can't be bad at the things you're supposed to be good at. You're supposed to be good at QB development. Now Jackson Arnold has to stand up and shine under Hugh Freeze. This has to be the year. If he can't do it with Jackson Arnold, I'm not sure that Auburn fans are going to trust him with anything else. It's got to look good. It's got to look good. Now, beside Jackson Arnold, there's a lot of talk about QB. You've got a lot of playmakers around him. Now, I talked about Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. But Eric Singleton Jr. is special. I want to see Eric Singleton. I want to see Cam Coleman. I want to see these guys rack up the yards in these matchups to start the season. They're young, man. Their bodies can take it. Let them set every single record they possibly can in these first few games. Let them feel like Heisman winners. Let them run up and down the field on Ball State. Do not call off the dogs until Auburn hits 100. Eric Singleton has 4.2 speed. He's got generational speed. He's running faster than the Flash out there, man. And in the open field, Ball State's not going to be able to stop him. He put his faith in Auburn. He transferred to Auburn. Let him rack up the yards here in game 2. Hit him on the slants, man. If you're playing him in a slot, get the ball to Cam Coleman deep. Get the ball to Perry Thompson. Another player that could have jumped ship, he stuck with you. I want to see Perry Thompson rack up the yards in this one. Now, we'll see what Malcolm Simmons' status is at as of right now, as of the time that we're recording this. He was kind of running with the threes. I think some internal punishment for what he went through, his offseason problems. It appears as if Auburn is going to move beyond that. He has a court date, August the 8th, so we'll see what happens there. But he was slated to be an integral piece of what Auburn wants to do offensively. Let him run wild. Multiple 800-yard receivers in this system. This is why I think that Jackson Arnold has a chance to break a lot of Auburn records. And he has a coach that's going to let him throw it the requisite amount of times to do that. That's kind of what held Jason Campbell back and Jarrett Stidham back. These guys could have thrown for a lot more yards than they did. Now, Jason Campbell played with 2 top 5 overall picks in the NFL draft at running back, so that was a little of a holdup for him. But he had one of the better receiver corps we've seen at Auburn. Devin Aromashadu, Ben Obumanu, Anthony Mix, Courtney Taylor. These guys were dogs, man. In today's college football, all of those guys would have set Auburn records for receiving. But now you have Cam Coleman. Now you have Eric Singleton. Now you have Perry Thompson. Now you have Horatio Fields. Now you have Malcolm Simmons. And we forget about my guy Bryce Kane, who was also a top 150 overall player. He may see some time. Get these guys the ball. Turn them loose. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, Auburn was very stout, man. I'm telling you, only 21.3 points per game allowed. Nobody ran away from Auburn on the scoreboard. If we see the improvement that we think we're going to see offensively, the defense should be really, really good because time of possession is everything, man. It's key. And if you can keep your defense off the field by sustaining drives, by running the football, by completing passes, by finishing off drives with touchdowns, I think you see this defense turn in some record numbers as well, too. I'm looking for Auburn to lower that points per game allowed total down from 21.3 to about the 18-point range. Yeah, I said it. I don't think Baylor scores a ton of points on Auburn. I'd be surprised to see them break 21. I would be surprised to see Ball State or South Alabama score anything. Auburn is going to be that good defensively. Keldrick Falk is going to lead the league in sacks. This is going to be a truly special defense. Rayshawn Pleasant quietly might be one of the better players in the SEC this year in that secondary. So it's going to be fun. There's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of good things going on the Plains here in year 3 for Hugh Freeze and his squad. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with it. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report on every social media platform, TW Report on TikTok. And if you're in the comments after the video, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button, show us some love. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing at the War Report here going. Guys, we're signing off, and as always,